What you are seeing on screen right now is my best attempt to match the graphics settings of the standard PC edition of Skyrim to what the Switch is capable of in docked mode. I'm not going to label which is which, by the way, because if you can't tell yourself, well, that's kind of the point. Hello again, I am Blunty, and in a moment I'm going to show you Fallout 4 on the Switch. Kind of. But first, some backstory to frame it up and bring you some much needed frame of reference. Last week, I made a video titled, "It Made Me Sick! Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch." It was a video about how I really wanted to play Skyrim for, in fact, my first time ever, believe it or not, yeah, I know, on the Nintendo Switch, not my PC, because I thought a role-playing game like Elder Scrolls V Skyrim would be great on the Switch. It's a huge game with lots to do and lots of ways to play, and I thought that would lend itself very nicely to playing in both console mode and in handheld mode, wherever, whenever, however I wanted. It sounded like a great idea. And I made this point in the other video, alongside some maxed out 4K footage of how I could be playing Skyrim on my PC if I wanted to. I already own the game there, I just haven't played it properly yet. I did this to point out I am more than happy to make graphical sacrifices for having the Switch's glorious flexibility of play modes in my hand. Only problem is, a lot, and I mean a lot, of morons saw the thumbnail, read the title, and decided to brilliantly extrapolate what I was saying about the PC version versus the Switch version. You know, make a guess instead of just watching the friggin' video and finding out that the whole point was I wanted it on the Switch. I chose it on the Switch despite the graphics downgrade. These idiots were assuming I was the other way around, screaming that the Switch made me sick because it was so ugly on the Switch. God, could prefer 4K PC. The actual bit that was making me sick, by the way, just to repeat myself from that video, was I was having some issues with the small field of view giving me some motion sickness. An issue that was somewhat reduced but never really eliminated after a few more hours of gameplay. I could tolerate it. I wasn't loving it, but I could tolerate it. But boy, howdy did some of you self-proclaimed hardcore gamers get triggered like a mousetrap in a hailstorm. Woo! This exceptional guesswork by the drooling masses of fantards, not fantards, magical brain-smart psychic geniuses who can know what a video is about before even watching it, have now spent a week solid posting shitty, aggressive, personally insulting comments, reacting to what they think the video was about, not what it was actually about. Screaming at me in all caps with the playground slurs full in tow about how I'm an idiot PC master race retard, claiming I don't get it and I should be super happy that a game like Skyrim can be played handheld, and this is some kind of magical miracle I am blaspheming against. I have been having a very good time deleting these comments. Deleted! I left a few of them up with replies to try and give other people the hint that maybe they should watch the video instead of guessing what it was about, but it never really caught on. Sadly though, after several hours of attempting to find a hook in Skyrim's gameplay to pull me in, I found myself a bit bored with it, honestly. And I'm sorry if you love the game, but I was still frustrated by the small field of view, which was somewhat mitigated by switching to third-person view, but third-person view has its own issues in combat, and first-person view in combat was driving me nuts because I couldn't see what the hell was going on around me. The inventory management was really annoying me, very old-school crap there, and frankly the characters and quests I was doing, both core and side quests, were just not that interesting to me. Everything was a bit bland from my point of view. I mean, I could see why other people might like the game, but there was nothing there for me. So I decided I'm giving up on the game. I'm going to trade it in for something else, which I almost never do. I almost always keep my old games. But this one, I can't see myself coming back to it. I just can't. And if I do, I've got the PC version. So I made this decision live on Twitch stream, explaining why, having a chat with the like-minded and the hardcore Skyrim fans alike, and we all kind of settled and agreed that Skyrim just wasn't my bag. Fallout 4 also came up repeatedly in my live stream gameplay of Skyrim. A lot of viewers were asking, and there was sort of someone popping in pretty much every hour asking the same question, that if I thought it was likely Bethesda would bring Fallout 4 to the Switch next. I said, I hope so. Because frankly, I'd love a Fallout 4 port on the Switch, for the same reasons I'd hoped I'd love a Skyrim port on the Switch. Only difference is, I've played Fallout 4 extensively, and I know I love that game already. And fun fact, both Skyrim and Fallout 4 run on the same game engine, Bethesda's own Creation engine. And because of that, I can run a little rough experiment here. What you're seeing now on the screen is me using the same level of settings that I used to bring standard PC edition of Skyrim down to closely match the Nintendo Switch version, translated across to Fallout 4's very similar graphics settings options. Of course, it's not like for like, as Fallout 4 runs on an updated version of the engine, naturally being a newer title. And there's some stuff I don't have any options to turn off or turn down or adjust in the ways I think I would like to match it to what I think the Switch would be capable of, ways a bespoke, customized Nintendo Switch port effort may do at a lower level of code quite successfully. It's just things I can't turn on or off. But I think it's roughly fair to say that a Switch port of Fallout 4 would probably look pretty close to what you're seeing. Again, it shares the broad stroke graphics settings I set Skyrim to in order to fairly close to match the version on the Switch. Like with Skyrim, Fallout 4 would very likely be capped to 30 frames per second on the Switch, doi, which for me is a bit less than ideal for a game with a first-person view, and in particular with firearm combat, and the nature of the way the combat works in Fallout 4 means the third-person view will be a lot more practical as well. There are certain character builds you can do that would rely less on run-and-gun shooter and more on a careful tactical play that would practically make it a non-issue, but not my favourite type of build, but it could be refreshing to try it, I suppose. I'm also, it's worth pointing out, playing with a mouse and keyboard, as you may be able to tell. Fallout 4 on PC does properly support gamepad play, but I've spent nearly 70-something hours in this game without using the controller, not even once, and when I tried it for the sake of this recording, it was a bit of a catastrophe. So yeah, the movement on the console version would look a tad more jankier with the old twin-stick play, of course. But the point really is, Fallout 4 could and would look and play pretty nicely on the Switch, I believe, as does Skyrim. The Switch Skyrim runs very steadily at nearly a rock-solid 30 frames per second. I only saw 2 slowdowns in my several hours of play, and Switch Skyrim looks and plays better than the 360 port, for example. But there's also a concern on that particular note. Fallout 4 never came to the 360 or the PS3, and Bethesda said at the time what they're doing with the game would, quote, never work, unquote, as they didn't want to pare it back enough to run on those older machines. And in a very broad sense, the Switch is a bit more powerful than the 360 was, and certainly doesn't match the Xbox One, which, excluding the very lowest settings capable on a PC, would be the base-level console experience for Fallout 4. But then again, Fallout 4 sold 1.2 million copies on Steam alone in just the first 24 hours, while day one of Skyrim saw just 230,000 people playing concurrently. So arguably, Fallout 4 being the more popular game, perhaps Skyrim was just a test case, an easier port to try and see how people would react to these huge open-world Bethesda RPGs, to see how they would work on the Switch, before putting in the man-hours on a harder task of making Fallout 4 fit on the Nintendo Switch. I certainly hope so. I liked Fallout 4 way more than I liked Skyrim, and it's certainly been long enough now since my PC playthroughs that I feel like I could really sink my teeth into a fresh go at it. And why not do that on the Switch? Once more, I love the flexibility, and I'm very often quite happy to give up some of the prettier graphic flourishes for the sake of having it on the Switch. What do you reckon? Thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.
Deleted! Oh, who's next?